Hey, this is John Shea, and you're listening to the Out of the Rat Race podcast, a fun educational podcast brought to you by LI-RIA. LI-RIA is a real estate networking organization comprised of top quality rated leaders in the professional world of real estate investing. LI-RIA offers education, funding services tailored to fit real estate investors' needs, access to professionals, and a mentorship program with a proven industry track record of success. So sit back, relax, and get ready to hear the lessons, stories, and opportunities we provide that have helped and continue to help people just like you get out of the rat race and find financial independence through real estate investing. Hey guys, it's John, and I'm joined today by someone that has taken LI-RIA's mentorship program. We've known him for a few years now, and it's been pretty exciting watching his journey. I'd like to welcome Richard Gibson to the show. Richard, how are you?
I'm good, John. Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's great having you on. We've been talking about having you on for a while, and this is finally coming to fruition now, right?
Yeah, long time coming.
All right, so today I want to hear a little bit about your story. I mean, you've given me dribs and drabs of it throughout the years, and let's start from the beginning. So I want to hear everything. So we'll start with where were you born and where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I was born in Southern California. But basically, my parents grew up in Pomona, which is a part in LA County. But I spent most of my time in a town called Alta Loma, which is in the Inland Empire area. It's also Southern California, about an hour east of LA.
About an hour east of LA?
Yeah.
And how long were you there for? I mean, did you live there your whole life?
Yeah. We probably moved to the last house. I was probably in elementary school and all through high school. I graduated. I was 17 when I graduated, just the way my birthday lands. And got accepted to the University of Utah. So I went to Salt Lake City and lived there, went to school and lived there for a number of years. And
what was Utah like?
Oh, Utah was amazing. So I actually was all set to go to an architectural school in Orange, California. And I went on a snowboarding trip, Super Bowl weekend of my senior year, and we were staying in Park City, right there on Main Street. There was a Sundance Film Festival was going on, and they just got a couple feet of snow right before we got there and while we were there, and was riding the backcountry and powder and just fell in love. It was amazing, a life-changing trip.
Yeah. So do you go back and visit?
It's been a while. The one exception, so when I still have family in California and I've done a few trips related to real estate. And so if I have to have a layover somewhere, I try to force it. So I have a extended layover in Salt Lake and I'll have a friend come pick me up at the airport and just send up a flare and say, hey, we're going to eat at the Pie, which is an amazing pizza place out there. And, we'll get, 8, 12, 15 people show up, have dinner, catch up, and then get back to the airport and, back home.
There you go. The good old times, the Pie. So really, really good pizza outside of New England.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Best pizza.
Right. They say the best pizza is actually in Connecticut.
I did see that article lately. I've definitely eaten at that one, what's it, Pepe's?
Yeah.
I've done it on the drive home from maybe Rhode Island one time or something. It was good. The line was a little crazy, but it wasn't like.
Is that the one that's normally like around the block?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was. Surprisingly, it was pretty quick to get in there and get a seat and get some food. But yeah, it was good. Don't get me wrong. I don't say it was like, phenomenal. But I'm gonna have to try some more Connecticut pizza.
Apparently, they have some where they actually put like clams on it. That doesn't sound appetizing to me, but if you look it up, like every state has their different type of pizza that they enjoy, and apparently up in New England there's like a clam pie.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. They may have even had it there, but yeah, I'm not a Ninja Turtle. I like to I like a lot of toppings on there. Like more like a supreme combo type of guy, but no pineapple, no anchovies.
Yeah, none of that crap.
No, yeah.
Well, anchovies are just like a little ball of salt anyway. Where did you go to high school? Was that also in California?
Yeah. So I went to Alta Loma High School. Like, again, if you ever fly to the Ontario airport, which is like it used to be a small regional airport, and now it's a national airport or international airport.
Right.
It's just north of there.
Did you do any sports in high school or anything like that?
So I played football and stuff in like middle school, and then once I got to high school, I was in the habit during the summer. I would always go to this place called Parker, Arizona, which is right on the Colorado River, and I would do water skiing and then wakeboarding, things like that. So once I got into high school, I wasn't ready to give up my summer, so I never really got into high school football. I did wrestle for probably the first 2 years of high school, and I played baseball, both from a little league standpoint, not for my high school, but I got into basically the same kids I played with that didn't play in high school. We just kind of they had like little league, but for like high school level, high school age kids, and played that through probably most of high school, maybe to my junior year or so.
Gotcha. And what did you think your career was going to be?
I thought I was going to be an architect. I really got into the drafting classes in school and loved it. Like I am not, I can't freehand draw something to save my life. But man, you give me some straight edges and should do some perspective drawings. I could do some things that, I think look pretty amazing and cool. So that's kind of where I thought I was going. Both, like I said, mentioned before, I was all accepted to an architectural, kind of like a tech school, but to get your, architecture certificate at a place in California. And then when I decided to, go to a 4-year college, I started going through and getting my, my architecture degree for the University of Utah. And, I did get my, an associate's in architecture, but never ended up doing, well, at the time, never really ended up doing much with it. I can understand plans, I can understand drawings, and enough to, to be dangerous, as they say.
There you go. And you went into the military, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I graduated in '99. I mentioned I was like 17, moved to Utah. I spent first 2 years just going to school and snowboarding, and then kind of just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And after September 11th, I almost enlisted, but I was living in Utah. I didn't have any, had friends, and I was, living, but I couldn't figure out what to do. I couldn't figure out the logistics of it, right? Like, hey, I'm living, I don't have a place to store what do I do with all my stuff?
Right.
And so just kept, I had some conversations, and I went and I sat for the ASVAB, and then, again, just couldn't figure out the logistics, and it was something that just kept coming up. And then one day I went to the grocery store, and there was this kid in his dress blues, and that I had had some classes with. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And so he had just got back from boot camp, and you could do some recruiting duty, and to get some additional vacation leave, but vacation time. And so he was there, like, "Hey, can I have my recruiter call you?" And I said, "You know what? Okay." And so I had a good conversation with the recruiter, and I had some things going on. Then same thing, couldn't quite figure out some of the logistics of it. And he's like, "Hey, but if that doesn't pan out in the next 6 months, are you ready to go?" And I said, "Yeah." And oddly enough, 6 months kind of came and went, and I never heard anything from him. And so I actually ended up reaching back out to the recruiting station, and I was like, "Hey, this guy was supposed to call me back, but I guess that guy, I don't remember the specifics of it. He may have like rotated out." And they were like, so then they set up an appointment, and kind of had a conversation about what I wanted to do, what I was interested in doing, and they were like, it was very funny. They were like, "Oh, well, to do that, you're gonna have to score this on your GT score, which is part of the ASVAB, like sub scores kind of thing." And then I was like, "Yeah, okay, no problem." So they went and sat for it, and after that, they never had a conversation. I did fine. I did great on the test, so it was basically I could do whatever I wanted.
Gotcha. Which branch of the service?
Oh, the Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
So 4 years active duty. It was an 8-year enlistment. 4 years active duty, another 4 years on the IRR, which is the inactive ready reserve. Basically, I had to do something like once a year. I have to go check in. They try to pitch you on some additional things, but at that point, I was back in college and trying to figure out, just get to that next stage in life.
Right. And what was your profession in the military?
So I was in 0311, which is an infantryman. So I was in the infantry, just a rifleman. Had some B billets, if you will. Like I was a combat marksmanship coach, over the horizon navigator, a couple like lower sub jobs kind of thing, depending on what the upcoming deployment was going to be.
Gotcha. So you ended up getting out. Obviously, you're married. You have children.
Yeah.
When did you meet your wife?
So it's funny. So I was getting ready to get out of the Marine Corps and trying to figure out. Well, my enlistment was coming up. I was actually I got approached to do a few like an enlisted officer program first for the Army, and then I looked into it within the Marine Corps. So I was like, okay, either way, I'm going to go to college. I'd already had I think I had 2 associate degrees at that point. and was just trying to figure out what I was going to do. A buddy of mine from before the Marine Corps in Salt Lake, he graduated University of Utah with honors, and he moved out here to New York, and it wasn't a target school, and so he's like, hey, if you're serious about finance and you want to do this, you should come out here to go to school. And especially at that point, they had made some changes to the GI Bill that you could go to any school as long as it was public, and it would be paid for.
Okay.
And so he convinced me into applying to NYU, which was, especially while deployed, was a very involved process, especially getting all the essays and everything together. And by the time I finished that, I was kind of sold on the idea of coming to New York. So at that point, I was like, maybe apply to another school just to be safe. And good thing I did, because I didn't get into NYU at that point, and I got into CUNY, started at Queens College, and then transferred to Baruch. And then so I was here. I knew that one guy from Salt Lake and his that time maybe fiance or girlfriend, and that was about it. And so it's like I was on I was on Craigslist looking for furniture for my apartment. That was just maybe an inflatable mattress and a little file cabinet and a laptop. And I was looking for furniture, and it was like, hey, single softball in Brooklyn. And I was like, hey, I like softball. Singles, that sounds great. And because you could sign up as an individual,
Right.
not as a team. Oddly enough, this is one of the league t-shirts I just happen to have on today.
There you go.
And so signed up there, and it was very, you'd go and you'd play your game Saturday, late morning, early afternoon, and then everybody would go to a bar afterwards. And so she was just on one of the other teams, and so kind of hit it off there. And it took a little pursuing, and everything, and yeah, and just started dating a little bit later. A couple months later, moved in together, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
So she was on a different team.
She was on a different team.
So
She was a pretty decent hitter, and I was leadoff hitter, and she, to start the game, like, walked me, and I was like, really? Like, I was like very I thought it was a strategic play. If you ask her, the umpire moved the pitching mound right before the game started, and so she wasn't dialed in. But so it was kind of funny. I was like, really? Like, not even close.
that's a conflict of interest game. It really is. Both
Yeah,
you guys are supposed to be enemies at that point. You guys ended up getting married.
exactly. Yeah.
All right, excellent. And how many children do you guys have?
We have three, so 6, 4, and like 16 months.
Congratulations, and thank you for your
Yeah,
military service, by the way.
sure.
Let me see. You went to school for financing, and then after
Yeah.
school, you got a job with, I think, Wells Fargo.
Yeah. So in Salt Lake, so 'cause this will come up later. So Salt Lake is huge, really big on call centers. Like if you get customer service rep in the U.S., I'd probably say it's 90% chance it's probably in Utah. At least it used to be
Right.
at that time. And so one of the popular places. I actually worked for DirecTV at one point, but then my first real like phone salesy job was for Discover Card, which at that point was Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, and so doing some of their outbound marketing services. And at that point I was working on my architecture degree. I had 2 years of it, but the U didn't have an associate's program, so I transferred to the community college, took some extra classes, and tried to do something with that. And nothing really kind of panned out with it. And so Morgan Stanley would pay for school if it was business related. So I was like, all right, let me go back to school, and I'll take some business classes. And I was like, hey, this is kind of fun. And so then I got back into it. So then I finished up, got my second associate's into finance, and was working on going back to the University of Utah to get my bachelor's degree. And then that's when I enlisted in the Marine Corps. So I'd already had a bunch of that stuff done, the undergrad stuff done. And so then I finished that when I moved here to New York. And so my first job out of the military, after graduating, was at Bank of America. Started like a risk management role, and then in a client management in their treasury sales business. So I was there for 9 years total. And then more recently, the last 2 years up until March, I was at Wells Fargo, more in a corporate finance consulting type of role.
That's crazy. It's
Yeah,
moving up the totem pole, right?
yeah, exactly. Just you do good work. You take the things you learn in the military of being on time, taking care of things, taking charge, and opportunities just kind of they materialize, but they materialize because you do good work, and you're willing to learn and kind of push yourself, and people recognize that, and that's what really creates